Baker Mayfield has drawn a line in the sand with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If the Bucs don't pay him before training camp, he says the negotiations are over. So here's the question. Is Baker asking for too much money? Or is the Buccaneers going to have to do a quarterback reset after the premature Tom Brady era? Let's talk about it. So, according to the reports, Baker just did a golf tournament. He's been speaking on a couple podcasts the last few months, and he said negotiations stop with him once July 28th come. And what day is July 28th? That is basically his deadline because that is when training camp starts for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And on Tampa Bay's end, they say they aren't rushing the process. Baker says that he feels that both sides want to get a deal done, but at the same time, they are trying to find a middle ground. So this isn't any type of holdout. I think they are trying to work in good faith on both ends, but it's really about the value, and I think that is the crossroads with Baker and the Bucs right now. Baker does not want to leave Tampa Bay. He's created a home. They gave him a chance. Again, he signed a 3-year, $105 million deal. I think he's outperformed the deal, but on Tampa Bay's end, this is a value play for them. And if you guys watch the video that I just put out, I talked about this, the quarterback's value and how the salary cap is going up. And we're at $60 million quarterbacks right now. And, we might possibly be at a $75 million quarterback in the next couple years. So now teams are really evaluating these quarterbacks and they're saying, are these guys good or are they elite? And they have not really determined what's good and elite in the money sense yet. So this is that line in the sand that's drawn between Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Bucs right now. So, like I said, right now the contract is actually 3 years, $100 million. He's at 33.3 annually. And, that was okay at the time when he got the contract. He had to prove himself. He had to see who he was. He had came from, I think, the Los Angeles Rams, and then he had a pit stop in Carolina. So Baker was rebuilding his career. And I think on both sides of the aisle at that time, Tampa Bay needed a quarterback coming off of the great Tom Brady, and Baker needed a home, and he showed himself as a starter quarterback. So it was easy to make that deal. It's almost kind of like the Sam Darnold deal that you just saw in Seattle, and he just won a Super Bowl. So maybe in the next year they'll be trying to rework his deal. But where that sits Baker at right now, that makes him the 16th highest paid QB. Yeah, that don't sit right. And that makes him the 30th highest paid player. So, like I said, he's a quarterback. The quarterback is going to make more than any position. So, they're going to be a little more inflated than your defensive ends or anything like that. So, where he's at right now, that does not sit well with Baker. And that means, these contracts, they get outdated so fast. I mean, you look at it at one point in time when Deshaun Watson got his contract. I think it was like $40 or $45 million. And that was like the biggest contract at that time. And then the numbers have just inflated since then. So you can understand why Baker Mayfield, for his production value, is worth way more than that. Now, in 2024, I think that was still kind of looked at as a bargain for Baker's contract. Now that's looked at as the middle class. And if I had to put my thoughts on it, I think Baker Mayfield is a top 10 quarterback. I think he's a top 10 quarterback. I think he's done well. And I think he's worth the money. Like I said, Sam Darnold just got $36 million, and actually Sam Darnold has not had a better body of work than Baker. So, take that, with a grain of salt and, think what you want to think. Leave that in the comments below. But I guess what we trying to get to at this point now is Baker a $50 million quarterback? I want you guys to think about that. Because when you put him in the $50 million club, he gets into the Brock Purdy territory. Do you think he's better than Brock Purdy? Daniel Jones, he keeps getting paid, even though he was having a good season last year before he got hurt. He's at 45, I think 45 to 47 million. Of course, I'm not gonna say he's in a Patrick Mahomes area pay wise, because I think Patrick Mahomes just got a restructuring deal. I think that put him at about 60 million, but he's still around the Josh Allen and all those type of guys. So, um, yeah, is Baker worth 50? I mean, again, Daniel Jones got 45. He's coming off an Achilles injury, and if Daniel Jones is making 44, what does Baker deserve? I think Baker does deserve 50 million if that's the case. I mean, it's just really based on the numbers. Now, in the defense of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and if I was a GM or an owner at this point, I'm looking at the situation and I'm saying, is Baker Mayfield the quarterback that can lead us to Super Bowl aspirations? Can he get us to an NFC title game? And if that's no, then you don't pay Baker Mayfield. If you don't feel like he can lift all ties and all boats, that how that saying goes, and make them a contender, then I'm not paying a quarterback $50 million just to pay $50 million because he's a good quarterback. They have to look at Baker Mayfield as an elite option, or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to have to do a reset at this point. I mean, when you think about it, do you think that he's better than Brock Purdy? That's the question. If you had to line up Baker and Brock Purdy, line up all the things around them, you can line up the San Francisco system, the Kyle Shanahan system for all its pros and cons. Does that make Brock Purdy the $53 million quarterback that he is? Or could he go anywhere else and be that $53 million quarterback? If the roles was reversed and you put Baker in that system, would that make Baker an elite quarterback? We don't know, but the numbers are the numbers. Who would you take, Brock Purdy or Baker Mayfield? I leave that to you guys up in the comment section. Me personally, I'm going to go with Baker. I just think Baker has more intangibles, but I do like Brock Purdy. But is he worth $53 million, Brock Purdy? So if Brock Purdy's worth 53, then is Baker worth 53? Or are they worth less? I mean, that is the real debate. You know what I mean? So, I mean, when you look at Tampa Bay, and I'm playing devil's advocate at this point now, and you look at the 2025 season, they were 6-2. They started off 6-2. They was on fire. I mean, Baker was a MVP candidate them first 8 games. Then they finished the last part of the season like 2-7, 2-8. Missed the playoffs. It was his lowest production output since joining the Tampa Bay Bucks. I mean, what do you think as a GM? Do you think Baker's game is tailing off? He's had a lot of injuries. We just saw his injury report. They said he's playing with like 7 injuries last year. He started to look like the Allen Iverson of the NFL. And he's a tough guy, but I need a guy who can get production. So I wonder, is Tampa Bay looking at it from that aspect? Because, to be fair to Baker, he's a tough dude and he's trying to play through pain, and that is what you want in a leader. But at the same time, as a GM, if Baker's out there playing hurt and he's out there, his play is diminished and he's hurting our team, what good does that do us? That means he's hiding injuries. That means that he's not readily available to do the job that we're paying him for. So I believe that this stalemate is really about value. I don't think it's about the money. I think Baker has played up to the potential to at least be a $50 million quarterback. Like I said, you could debate who's better, Brock Purdy or Baker Mayfield. I would take Baker Mayfield, but at the same time, his toughness sometimes gets him in trouble. And, if it's going to be at the detriment of the team as a GM, I'm going to look at that. While it's admirable and all those words, and looking tough and all those things, I need you out there slinging the ball. And if you can't sling the ball because of an injury and it hampers your play like that to the point that we fall off a cliff, then that's got to be something to talk about. So, I mean, we have to look at the situation. We know the quarterback market is exploding. We know it's a lot of contract extensions coming up. Lamar Jackson is due one. Jade Daniels, all these guys are coming up on their contract extension. So Baker wants his money. Now, let me ask you this. Tampa Bay fans, do you want to keep Baker as your franchise quarterback going forward? Or do you want to reset? We know what the 2027 class is going to look like. We know the headline names. And I think a lot of people would love to come down to Tampa Bay, playing that sun. You get that state tax relief. I mean, what could go wrong, right? So, do you want to keep Baker as your franchise guy? You got him. You was able to pivot away from Tom Brady and fall into Baker, or do you want to do the full-on reset, get you your 21, 22-year-old quarterback, do the reset, and let Baker go somewhere else? And if Baker went somewhere else in the 2027 season, hypothetically, where could you see him going? Leave all of this in the comments below, and to the next video. Peace.